Youngstown, Ohio, a small, quiet town tucked away in the heart of the Midwest. On its tree-lined streets, the rhythm of daily life carries on undisturbed. Neighbors greet each other by name, children run through sprinklers on warm afternoons, and the sound of laughter fills the air. A place where everyone knows each other, where trust is never questioned. It's here, in a neighborhood that feels like a sanctuary, that the unimaginable happened. This is where Claire and her 3 daughters lived, where they thought they were safe, where the world was predictable. But all it took was one man, Arnold Perry, to change everything. Arnold was a man in need, a friend of a friend, down on his luck, struggling with addiction and nowhere else to go. Claire, with her boundless generosity, opened her home to him without a second thought. She knew what it was like to face hard times. She'd faced them herself, and so she understood the power of a second chance. At first, everything seemed fine. Arnold was polite, helpful. He pitched in around the house, worked on small tasks, and joined the family for dinner. Claire's daughters, though they were initially skeptical, soon warmed to him. Arnold was good at making people feel comfortable. He knew exactly how to charm his way into their lives. He seemed like the perfect house guest, perhaps a bit too perfect, but Claire was grateful, and her daughters, still young and trusting, were simply happy to have an extra set of hands around. They never questioned why he always seemed to want to be near them. As time passed, Arnold's presence became a staple in their home. His stories were often gripping, stories of his troubled past, his battles with addiction, his dreams of turning his life around. Claire believed him. She felt good about offering him a safe place, a fresh start. What she didn't realize, though, was that he was quietly embedding himself in their lives, not as a guest, but as someone with darker intentions. Arnold's behavior began to change, though slowly, almost imperceptibly. At first, it was nothing alarming. He would offer his help a little too eagerly, linger a bit too long when talking to one of the girls, or make casual remarks that made them feel uncomfortable, but nothing overt, just small things that any attentive parent might overlook. The girls didn't know how to express what they felt. Was it just them? Were they being overly sensitive? After all, Arnold was family now. Their mother trusted him completely. Despite their discomfort, the girls stayed silent. After all, their mother trusted him. How could they question her judgment? And so they ignored their instincts, brushing aside the unease that had begun to settle in their hearts. It wasn't until things escalated that they realized how dangerous it had become. Then, the real changes started. Arnold's interactions with the girls grew increasingly inappropriate. Small gestures, harmless on the surface, began to feel more like manipulation. He'd stand too close, linger just a moment too long. He'd offer to take them out, just the two of them, for some quality time. All the while, Claire remained unaware, trusting in Arnold's good intentions. The tension built up slowly, like a storm on the horizon, unseen until it was too late. And as Arnold's behavior became more blatant, the girls began to notice it more often. The subtle touches, the way he would speak to them in a tone that sent a chill down their spines. Still, they didn't say anything. How could they? They didn't know who to trust. They didn't know how to explain what was happening without betraying their mother's trust in Arnold. One night, everything changed. The silence broke. It was the oldest daughter who found the courage to speak up first. The words spilled out, frantic and raw, as she described the things Arnold had done to her. Her voice quivered with fear and disbelief, and Claire, hearing the words she could never have imagined, felt her world shatter around her. In that moment, Claire's mind raced. This couldn't be real. Arnold was a friend. He was family. But the reality was clear. Arnold had used her trust to get close to her daughters, had abused that trust in ways she could never have anticipated. Every ounce of doubt she'd held about her daughter's words was replaced with guilt, horror, and rage. How could she have missed the signs? How could she have let this man into her home, into her family, knowing the danger he posed? Claire wasted no time. She immediately contacted the authorities, her voice shaking as she explained what had happened. The police arrived, and Arnold was arrested without hesitation. But the aftermath of that phone call would haunt Claire for the rest of her life. Once Arnold was in custody, the investigation began. Claire's world turned upside down as the truth came out. Arnold wasn't just a man down on his luck. He had a history. His past was filled with crimes, but somehow he'd slipped through the cracks. His previous victims had never been believed, never had the courage to speak out like Claire's daughters had. This time, however, Arnold would face justice. The trial was long, painful, and emotionally exhausting. Claire's daughters had to relive the trauma in front of strangers, recounting the moments that had forever changed their lives. The courtroom filled with tension, each testimony more difficult to bear than the last. Arnold's defense tried to argue that his actions were a result of his troubled past, that he had suffered as a child, and that was why he had done what he did. But no amount of excuses could change the horror of his actions. The judge's gavel came down hard, and Arnold Perry was sentenced to 27 years in prison. The sentence wasn't enough to undo the damage Arnold had caused. The physical scars could heal, but the emotional wounds ran much deeper. The trauma, the betrayal, the feeling of being violated by someone who had been trusted like family. It was something Claire and her daughters would carry with them forever. But despite the darkness that had surrounded them, they had come through it together. It wasn't an easy journey. In the aftermath, Claire's nights were filled with haunting questions. What if she had seen the signs sooner? What if she had trusted her daughters more? But she had learned something invaluable through this nightmare, the importance of listening, truly listening to the voices of those she loved most. Forgiveness wasn't easy. For Claire, it was something she had to work toward every single day. She had to forgive herself, forgive Arnold in her own way, though that forgiveness would never mean excusing his actions, and find a way to live with the weight of the pain her family had suffered. For Claire's daughters, the path to healing was even harder. Each of them struggled with the deep emotional scars Arnold had left behind. It was more than just the pain of betrayal. It was the loss of their innocence, the trust that had been shattered, and the fear that lingered in the back of their minds, fear that one day something like this might happen again. But time, though slow, began to work its magic. Slowly, the girls found their voices. They shared their pain with each other, with their mother, and with those who cared for them. They learned that they were not alone in this, that there were others who understood, others who had suffered the same fate. They found solidarity in their shared experiences, and together they fought to reclaim their strength. In time, Claire and her daughters rediscovered the power of family. Through the darkest days, they leaned on each other. They rebuilt their lives piece by piece, brick by brick, from the foundation of trust and love. And with each passing day, they learned to live with the pain, not in denial of it, but as a part of their story. A story of survival, a story of resilience. And though they would never forget what had been taken from them, they understood now that healing wasn't about erasing the past. It was about living with it, accepting it, and moving forward, not alone, but together. They had found the strength to rise above it, to take back what had been stolen. They had learned that even in the most broken places, new life could grow. This is a story of love and betrayal, of a mother's fierce determination to protect her children, no matter the cost, of resilience, of growth, and the indomitable will to survive in the face of unimaginable pain. It's a reminder that even when everything seems lost, hope can still find a way to emerge.